What up, big dogs? I'm your host, Coach Craig, and this is Athletes Unleashed.
On today's episode, my guest is a high school football player finishing his senior year. We discuss the everyday physical and mental grind that comes with being a determined athlete, finding your role on the team, and the added pressure of being a leader, the sport-life balance, especially on the social side, and having a mindset of continuous learning and a constant drive to keep improving your game. Please enjoy my conversation with Vinny Tiscareno.
Like the general term versus what it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when people think of the term athlete, it's just like working out every day and playing your sport, but it's way deeper than that. I think more people see it as a superficial thing, but if you're an actual athlete, it's different because it's like an everyday thing, not only physically, but mentally too. You have to keep yourself mentally disciplined and sharp, or else you're just not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes waking up at 4 a.m. to go work out, sometimes staying late until like 7 o'clock, coming home late, doing homework and sleeping. That's it. It's like a full-time job. But I think really you also have to have good people behind you to support you through it. Because I don't think I would have been able to do it alone at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what I want to know for you as a football player, your season is short.
Right.
I mean, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's like 12 weeks.
Yeah.
14 weeks. I mean, it's a couple months max. A lot of people that play other sports, you're playing in the off season. So, soccer, basketball, baseball, there's like year-round leagues that are happening. So it's just kind of a constant thing. But I feel like for football, it's so concentrated that you're preparing all that time. And then in those few months, it's all football all the time. So like you're saying, you could get up super early in the morning, you got to go to the gym, you're staying late, you're watching film. I mean, you play Friday night, you're there early the next morning to watch tape. I don't think everyone realized, I definitely didn't realize it until I started talking to players and coaches about how much of an investment it is just during the season.
Yeah.
Does that investment carry over in the off season as well?
It definitely does. Well, this year, I'm not too sure how it'll go, but for previous years, it would just be the same thing. We have like maybe a month or two off, and it's just in the weight room going hard. And then eventually spring comes around, we go on the field again, just cleats. It's really, I don't want to sound corny, but it's literally a constant grind. It's every day, and it's a commitment, which some people don't understand. That comes with being an athlete. You have to be committed to it. It's a commitment you make, and if you don't stay to that commitment, you're gonna fail.
Do you ever have I know obviously you're a super committed person. You're one of the premier players on the team.
I appreciate that.
And we were just talking. You're hopefully looking at getting recruited to play in college next year because you're graduating.
Yeah.
You just finished your final season in high school. Do you ever get confronted with the fact that not everyone is as committed as you are?
Yes, actually, and I hope we were going to talk about this because that also comes with my ability to be a leader on the team. Because there is definitely, you could split the team, and half of those people really want it, half of those people don't at all. So that's where being a leader also comes in. It's hard to lead all people when half of them don't want it, And it's frustrating because on Friday nights, when we go out, I know me and all the seniors, we're going out there. We trained all season. We trained 4 years just to win the season, right? To go CIF. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But and then there's just another half who don't care. Another half who, okay, we have 2 more seasons or another season after this. For us seniors, this is it. So I feel like we're more committed than anybody on the team, and it just sucks when nobody really wants it as much as we do.
Do you think that's just because the end is coming, or did you have that level of commitment the last couple years as well, or did you find it as the time goes on, getting more and more committed?
Well, definitely my freshman and sophomore year, my drive to win wasn't as big as it is now because I know I had my junior season and senior season to look forward to.
Yeah,
but I feel like as my junior and senior season came, I became more committed because not only was my time almost running out in high school, but I mean, I develop more skills, and I also develop better relationships with the guys I play with. So I'm not only playing for myself, but I'm playing for them too.
Right. Do you look back at yourself freshman and sophomore year and think like how the seniors that when you were younger felt about
they
you?
definitely felt the same way. I mean, I wasn't just slack off all the time. I was out there working hard because I was also on varsity, so I had to earn my spot every time I played there. I mean, in the year I was a freshman, I had like Dylan Vandenberg and Cole Spivey at D-line, so it was hard to compete with them because they're really good and they've established themselves there. You know, yeah, I definitely think they felt that at times, but I was able to feed off of those seniors and their energy, and I know they want it, so I try my best out there.
That's good. I'm wondering, like, the lack of commitment with half the team. Is it they're just playing football because it's a status thing, or do they not know, I think, when they get into it or when you're in the middle of it, how much of a grind it is and how much of a not only a physical but a mental toll it's going to be, and some people check out? Or
I think it's definitely a combination of a lot of those things. Some kids, they just haven't been playing football for, like, this could be like their first, second year. Maybe they just started in high school, but I've been playing since I was 7, tackle football since 2nd grade. So my commitment and love for the sport has been here like all my life. This is almost all I've ever known. So to get out there, and then I also can't expect every kid to want it as much as I have because I've, of course, been playing longer. And I don't know. Some kids don't see football like how I see it because football is my life. It's all I've ever been doing. It's all I've ever known. For some kids, it's just a sport or an extracurricular activity you just go out there and do. And like you were saying, there's definitely some kids that play football just for that status, and I could tell even though they don't want to admit it. But I don't know. It's different for everybody for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I see similar things across other sports. I feel like for football, the physical commitment that you have to make is just more substantial than some other sports. It's not saying that other sports are less physically demanding or anything, but it's just you legitimately are sacrificing your body on a daily basis during the season. I think in the off season it might be a little bit different because new rules, you're not allowed to put pads on as soon or not allowed to hit in practice or whatever it might be. But those weeks that you're playing in the season, I mean, the pressure only ratchets up, I'm sure.
Right.
But that toll week after week after week on your body is substantial. And like you said, I don't know how many of those people are really ready for that if they haven't played that long, or they're just not prepared when they get to the higher levels to be taking that kind of punishment, because you're doing it in practice and in games. And then I'm sure not only is there pressure to perform, but there must be pressure to play through injuries, not only because if you're a valuable member of the team, your coach wants you to play, your teammates want you to play, and you want to play.
Right.
You don't want to let your team down. But because the season is so short, you don't want to like give in to an injury and then be out for a number of games and miss the vast majority of your season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we were talking about Kaylee earlier and my dad, they constantly call me stubborn because no matter how many injuries I get, I'm never just going to sit out because I know how, like you were talking about earlier, the season is so short. It's like 10 or 11 games, depending on how far you make it.
Right.
But I don't want to risk sitting out and missing that film just for like an injury I could play through. Because I don't know if you saw me during the Saugus game, but I had that whole club on. I just refused to not play because I sprained like all my fingers here. And I couldn't even get into a stance.
Yeah.
It was that bad. So playing with the club and then tearing my MCL, which was in 8th grade, which is the reason did you know I got held back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got held back. I did 8th grade twice because my dad wanted me to play all 4 years of high school. And just playing with the brace, it's a lot of new things that I had to get used to, especially the brace. Being able to move with that. And then a club, it's just a lot of, you have to be able to adapt, or else you're just, how do I put this? You're not going to succeed in your sport if you can't adapt to those injuries, because injuries are going to happen, especially in football, which, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows, like you said, it's very physically demanding.
Yeah.
And if I just sit out because of a sprained ankle or sprained fingers, when I know that the other part of me is like good, So that's like an 80% me, which is better than nothing.
Right. Well, and you were talking about getting comfortable with playing the way you normally would, but having to having to adapt to some form of a brace or some sort of covering on your hand. Obviously, you have to physically adapt to that, but how does it affect you mentally in the game? Are you thinking about the injury all the time?
Yes. Just knowing that brace is there or that club is there or that just certain whatever it is they're protecting me, I'm always trying to protect it. And sometimes, especially with D-line, that sucks because even though I had a club on, I was watching my hands, and hands are a big thing for D-line. You have to be able to smack hands off, rip, all that stuff. But just knowing that my hand was really injured, it kind of held me back a little bit.
Yeah.
So that the injuries definitely hold you back, even if you do play with them.
Yeah. So you can push through physically, but instead of focusing on what your assignment is or matching up with whomever is on the other side of the line, you're thinking, how do I not mess my hand up worse?
Get hurt
Or
again.
how do I not? Yeah, well, and that's something that I've talked to other athletes about too, is when you've got an injury, a lot of times they're coming back from something, so like a torn MCL, they're coming back from it, they're trying to get back to the player that they were, but they don't have the confidence in either their body or their game or whatever it might be. So that happened early, you're 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
How were you able to move past that and then regain the confidence in yourself as a player to be able to have success throughout high school?
Well, it wasn't easy whatsoever. It was constantly working out and wearing my brace every day. Even if it was off season, I'd go to a park or something with my dad and we'd just run some drills. But it was a lot to get used to. It was not only physically but mentally too. Just knowing that's there and knowing that I could potentially hurt it again held me back a lot. And my knee still hurts every time I play.
Yeah.
It's never going to be 100%, which sucks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a lot mentally, I feel like, more than physically for me.
Yeah.
Because I have to go. If I can't be confident on the field, then I get in my head a lot. So if I'm not confident in my body, then I'm not going to do good. So it was a lot of mentally preparing myself and physically preparing myself for every season. And I know it was a lot of work you have to be willing to put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you mentally prepare yourself?
Well, it's just working on it every day. And how is it feeling every day? Can I do new movements off of it? How do I feel doing this? How do I feel doing that? It's just a lot of repetition. Yeah.
It's heavy, man. Do you ever find, so we've talked about the physical and mental aspect. For me, when I played, I had difficulty regulating my emotions when I played. I was a very aggressive player on the soccer field. And I often had issues coming down after games. Like my emotions were so high post-game, especially in losing, or if I didn't play my best or whatever. I imagine for football, the emotions are high all game. You have to kind of hype yourself up to play because it's not only a physically, but it's an emotionally demanding sport, and you want to succeed, but you're also getting the shit knocked out of you on every play. So do you find after games you're able to come down from that emotional level, or what helps you get down after games?
Well, for the most part, after games, I know that I did my job, and I know that, most games are pretty good. I do my job, and I have good plays. But what's really, some games I just have that I feel like I'm really off, and I start to get in my head more, and then after the game, I'm still really bothered by it. Most of the time, my dad can tell too, because he mentions it right away, and it gets me even more mad, because I'm like, I know, but I'm aggressive on the field, but I know when to flip that switch on and off.
Yeah.
But just more being disappointed within myself is when it's hard to bring it down.
Yeah.
It's not really an angry emotion. It's just like, I don't really want to talk to anyone. I just want to go home. I just want to
be left alone for a while.
Yeah, because I'm just disappointed in myself because I could do better than what I did on the field. But I know I could do better, but I just don't know why. I couldn't like execute it. It's a big mental game. It's just me getting in my head, and everybody knows that I get in my own head sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get out of it, but most of the time I could snap out of it. But it's once I get caught in my head, I just keep thinking about every little detail and overthinking it, and that's when I start to do bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find like the next day when you're watching film that it like clarifies things or just makes things worse?
No, actually, it does clarify, because watching that film, I'm like, okay, I understand why I did this, but I know what I can do to change it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I'm just way too hard on myself, which I know most athletes, especially ones that are dedicated to their sport, they can relate to, because you expect so much out of yourself, but sometimes you just have to really be understanding and say, I did what I could, I gave it all I could. And sometimes I'm just not going to execute all the time and perform all the time. And I think that's what most athletes really have to understand, that you're not going to be perfect. You know, you can't just constantly expect perfection out of yourself. Part of being an athlete is messing up and wanting to get better and keep working out, or keep grinding, keep practicing, whatever it is you do, just to get better and get to where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I emphasize a lot with my athletes is failure. For me, it's a necessity. You have to make mistakes. You have to fail. It's the only way, really, to learn how to make adjustments. Because if you're doing great all the time, you're just going to keep doing what you're doing. But it might not necessarily be the best way, or you could be better than you even are. And I think a lot of times playing with players who are better than you, like you were saying, you know, coming up with guys who are just better, it forces you to keep working. And you know, I always recommend with players, you know, talk to older players on your team, try to learn from them, emulate what they do. If they're doing something that you can't do, ask them. Be like, can you show me how to do that? And, you know, I think sometimes you have a situation where those older players might be looking at you and being like, I'm not going to show this guy what I do, because I don't want him taking my spot. But I think, like you said, real leaders understand, they can recognize, you know, the next generation, or they can recognize people who can really contribute just from their attitude and from the way they carry themselves. And so they're going to look at you and be like, I want to help this person because he's going to help us win. And, you know, it really comes back to, like you said, repetition and, in my mind, failure. Like, you have to make mistakes. Like I said, going back and watching it on the film, you can actually start to get better by understanding where you failed, make the adjustments, and then move forward. And hopefully in the next opportunity you get, you know, be able to perform better than before.
Right. Well, I've definitely, film is a huge thing. It sucks getting up in the morning, like after getting beat up the previous night, to just go get ready and go watch film and then go back home. But it helps tremendously, just being able to see what I did wrong and to see what I did good as well. But also my coaches pointing it out and helping me. The film room, sometimes it's tough being in there, because coaches are just yelling constantly, and you do not want to be the next one to get yelled at. But sometimes there's just a play where I know I messed up, and I'm like, coach is definitely going to yell at me for this.
You're just waiting for it to
I'm just
show
waiting.
up
But then I hear it, and I'm like, all right, thank God it's over with. But I just kind of have to move on from it and get better. But
do you ever find that as a leader, even if you know, like, even if the play wasn't that bad or what, you know you're going to get picked on because they want to send a message through you to everybody else?
Oh, yeah. Especially when our DNs mess up, or no, it's the other tackle messes up. It's really on me, because I didn't help them. You know, it's, especially being with the coaches for 4 years on varsity, they expect me to coordinate everything and help my other D linemen. So sometimes when they mess up, I feel like it's on me too, because I'm not helping them in practice. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, or I'm not setting a good example, you know?
So you carry an additional, it's kind of a leadership thing, but also you're one of the elder statesmen of the team. Like, you carry an additional burden, not only to do your job, but to help others do theirs as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find your expectations for yourself are extremely high, or are your personal expectations higher than what the coaching staff has for you?
Oh, most definitely. Like we were talking about earlier, just being too hard on yourself. I have the standard for myself in my mind that's way up here, but I feel like it should be brought down, but I can't do that for myself, because if I don't exceed that high expectation, I'm just going to be disappointed within myself, you know. But especially outside of football too, it's just like I said earlier, it's a commitment.
Right.
That every day through the things you do, like you don't be stupid off the field because it could affect your play time. Don't eat this because it could affect how you feel at practice or during a game. Or it's a collection of things that on and off the field that you have to mentally discipline yourself with.
So obviously in season, you are consumed with football. In the off season, you might have a little bit more free time, and not necessarily free time to do whatever you want, but it's academic time, it's social time, it's family time. How do you balance all of those things, especially during the season? How do you balance taking care of business in the classroom? How do you balance performing really well at practice, on the field? How do you balance having a social life and spending time with your family? Because I know all of those things compiled, there's only so many hours in the day, especially when you're dedicating so many of those hours to football.
Well, most of the time, my friends know that weekdays are kind of off limits because I'm tired or I have practice. But especially with school, you do have to make time for it. But I mean, school's not really that hard. I don't know how kids like mess it up. You go, you show up, you do your in-school work, and then you turn it in. It's not too difficult to do that. You know, most teachers, especially ones I've had, thankfully, don't ask for too much. So I've never really had to struggle with the GPA or being able to, knowing if I'm eligible to play or not. But I don't really struggle with like keeping academics. It's more of like other business besides football that I've difficulty with. It's especially social life, just not being able to hang out with friends. Most of my friends are in football with me, like Caesar or James. But it's a little more difficult when you have friends outside of football because they're always asking, can we hang out or can we do this and that? But sometimes I'm tired or practice is going too long. It's an important week. I have to watch film. But when they want to plan stuff on weekends, that's where I'm busy too, weekends, because I have to plan around different things. But that's for like mainly in season. But off season, I do have a lot more leniency, so I could like go. Well, now I don't have to go to workouts, but I just.
But you're going to.
Yeah, or do it on my own, but that's a different topic. I just go to workouts and then plan my day or plan around that. Really, plan around those 2 hours in the weight room. So I mean, it's a lot of planning and a lot of responsibility, but.
Well, and I would imagine a big event for a lot of your friends is coming to watch you play.
Yeah.
I mean, high school football is a big thing all around the U.S. But I mean, I see all the pictures after games. Everybody wants to come down to the field and take photos with the team. And it's you're busy. You don't really get to hang out with them either, but they're at least getting to see you do what you spend all that time to do. So you were just talking about the off season and things being a little bit different this year because you're not coming back to high school.
Right.
But the goal for you is to play in college, and we were talking earlier before we started that you're getting looked at by a couple Division I schools, which is awesome. I'm very hopeful for you.
Thank you.
What is the plan for you moving forward off season? Like the season just ended. Are you going to take some time to just kind of decompress from it all and let your body come back, or are you getting right back into the gym and keeping things going because you got bigger things in mind?
Well, I'm definitely going to take some time to myself to be with my family and to be with my friends and to decompress, like you said, but nothing too long because I don't want to get too comfortable with doing nothing. So I'm definitely going to get back in the gym. I'm going to, whatever opportunity I can, I'm going to try to get on the field and keep my body right. And then I still have to get some film together too and then start sending to other colleges. But most of my film's already taken care of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still stuff I have to do, and I can't take too long off because I don't want to get comfortable doing nothing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for you, that process of off-season workouts, are you just out there working by yourself? I know some, like other sports, there's a lot of like private coaching that goes on. I don't know, for football, is that something, because there's so many positions, do you have a position-specific private coach? Are you working out with older players? Like, what's the plan for you to stay in shape and to keep progressing your game to try and get up to that college level?
Well, I haven't figured that part out too much right now. For the most part, I'm going to be doing it by myself because I know most of the time I coach myself because there's not really, I don't want to seem like too cocky, but being where I'm at, and especially like sophomore year, junior year, there was not like really competition or other players that I could learn from. And the coaches really taught me all that they can. So sometimes it's just a lot of coaching myself, and like I'll go on YouTube, look at highlights, or I'll look at like Aaron Donald, for example. He has like different videos of him doing different like pass rushes or anything, and I just try to learn off that. I try to take from that, and also watching college players and other high school players who are probably better than me. Just watching what they do and what I can learn from that. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of teaching yourself. It's a lot of disciplining yourself. So that's mainly my plan right now. But also, I'll probably like ask Coach Ortiz, my defensive line coach, or Coach Marty, whatever I can, if they could like work with me during the off season. But that's still to be determined.
Yeah, that's good, man. You got a little bit of a plan going, but it's kind of you're just kind of see where things land.
Right.
So, I know for high school soccer and for other sports, the recruiting is a little bit. It's difficult. You have to do a lot of the recruiting yourself. You were talking about putting together film, and obviously every game is taped. You're watching all the film anyway. You're compiling, I would imagine, all your best plays, and sending game tape. As a football player, do you have to do a lot of the recruiting work yourself? Is that something that you're reaching out to coaches, or I'm not sure how it works?
Well, it's especially nowadays with football. There's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of big kids in my position, but I do have to send out film myself and get in contact with these coaches myself, because sometimes, especially being at a school like Hart, that's not like Division I, not a private school, not a like Power 5 school, whatever it is, it's hard to just like get a look, you know?
Right.
But what was I gonna say? During season, it's way harder than off season because you can't really contact those coaches because coaches are going everywhere, you know, and it's hard to get a hold of them, especially being in my position. But I managed to with Sean Irwin's dad too, and Sean because he gets recruited because he's Sean, he's really good, yeah. But you know, we've been getting help from them, seeing how they can help us. But it's a good amount of it has to be yourself too, because just everybody goes around and you really have to just look for your chance, and when you do, you have to capitalize on it. You know? But you have to do that yourself. You can't really expect anyone else to do it for you.
Do you feel like a ton of pressure to like make it happen for yourself?
Yes, so much pressure. The other night I was talking to my dad for like an hour on the phone, just like really getting all these feelings out to him. Like, what if I don't make it? What if I don't get recruited? What if I'm like not good enough to go play at the next level? It's really a lot, you know, and there is that constant pressure that if I don't make it, I'm failing myself, and also like how we were talking about earlier, having that really high standard for myself. It's tough because this is really all I've ever known, and if I don't really go to that next level, I feel like I'd kind of be disappointed in myself. Yeah. So it is a lot.
So I mean, obviously, as a kid, your goal, like as most kids, your goal is to be a professional.
Right.
And I'm sure that would be amazing if you could do that. And I'm sure that's still the goal deep down, is you want to play at whatever the highest level you can play. Are there other things in your life that you have desires to achieve outside of football?
Well, I don't want to just be comfortable in life. I want to have a pretty good job to where I don't really have to worry. Because growing up, I really had to. Sorry, I'm getting personal here.
No, absolutely, please.
I just have to watch like my family struggle, you know, and it's a little tough watching that. Like as a kid, you have to watch your parents struggle. So I want more for myself, and I want to I'm striving to get a good job, or at least go to college. That's why I want to play college football too. So go to college and pick up a new career, or pick up something that will set me for life, you know.
Yeah, that's good, man. I know it's hard. For a lot of kids growing up, football is, or whatever your sport is your outlet. Yeah. It's the thing that you can go do that kind of lets you get away from all the rest of the stuff in your life. And, you know, not everybody is lucky enough to not have to worry about those things. Right. So some people let it bring them down, but other people it motivates them, and it's good to hear that you obviously you want to play in college because you want to play in college, but the real reason is you want to get an education, you want to be able to support yourself, and I'm sure take care of your family. And I think for a lot of people, when they see that growing up, or when they see anyone in their family struggling, it's you want better for them and you want better for yourself, and I would imagine you want a family down the road as well, and you want them to have it easier than you did. Which I think is a very admirable thing. And it's good. I like to hear from athletes when their goals don't just revolve around their sport, because, sports are great. Right. They teach you so much, and you can, in my mind, become a much better person from your time playing.
Yeah. I kind of got into this mindset, and I accepted the fact that football's not always going to be there. There's going to come a chance where, it could have been that last Friday, like the last time putting on my pads, but I realized that there's more to life than just football, because my whole life's just been football. Me and my dad, just football. But I had to, during high school is really when it hit me, that I had to understand that football's not always going to be there, and I have to have a plan B.
Was there a specific moment when it hit you?
Yes, there was. I'm trying to remember the exact situation, but I think it was, I went to this one camp, I think like right before high school. It was like a camp with Alamany with other high school players and like kids my age, and it was tough. I was making some plays, but some kids were just like, I'm like, all right, there's kids out there that are way better than me, you know, and it's gonna be a lot of competition. It's gonna be a lot of hard work, and then I'm going to get to this point where that's it, no more football. So what else am I going to do? I had to come up with this plan B, or I had to start thinking about a plan B, even though sometimes having a plan B can take away motivation from your first plan.
Some people.
But I don't know, always having something to fall back on is not bad. I know some people see it as like something that could hold you back, but like I said, you're going to get to this point where it's not going to be there anymore. And if you don't have another plan, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
You're going to have to figure out something else to do.
Yeah, my go-to is that everybody's career ends at some point, and being solely focused on this one thing is great. Like, it's great for you to get better and what have you, but having other interests and passions and things that you enjoy, whether it be things you enjoy learning or doing, or it's important to have a life outside of your sport, because the reality is it's not always going to be there. And you might find that you carry on coaching or what have you. That's what happened for me. Couldn't play anymore, and the transition to coaching wasn't necessarily intentional. It just kind of happened, and then it became what I do. But having those interests and passions outside of your sport, I find to be very, very important. So I'm glad. It's not always easy to have that realization when you're looking around and being like, dude, these guys are crazy good, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be at that level, or I don't know if I have it in me to work to get to where they are.
Exactly.
And I think some people have that realization and they're just like, yeah, I'm done. Right. And other people, it's the motivating factor to keep going. But for me, it's like understanding that regardless of what level you're at, like, nobody plays forever. Right. And what are you going to do when it's not there anymore? So I'm glad you're already thinking about that, because it's very important to have a backup plan. I understand what you're saying about people losing motivation for their plan A, having something in their back pocket, but I think it's important to understand that playing your sport is a privilege. It's not something that everybody gets to do. Not everybody has the athleticism. Not everybody has the grades. Not everybody is in a situation where their coaches are caring for them or teaching them. And so it really is a privilege to be a high-level athlete, but there's a lot of sacrifice that goes with it.
Definitely.
All the time invested, losing out on time with your friends, dealing with injuries. All of those things are a price that you have to pay to do what you love to do. But like you said, football's been your life for so long.
Well, like you were talking about sacrifices, I'm really thankful for my parents too, because when I was younger, I would have definitely fell off track because of being so immature and naive, not being able to commit to something like that. But I'm thankful for my parents because every time I want to skip practice, I want to go hang out with my friends, I want to do this, they would not let me whatsoever. They'd always, I'm so thankful for them, man.
I'm sure you weren't at the time, though.
Yeah. Of course I was mad. I'm like, damn, I really want to skip practice. I want to go with my friends. But I'm so thankful that they kept me on track and kept me committed to the sport that I love. Unfortunately, not everybody has that. Not everybody has those two parents there to support you through everything you do. And it really sucks, especially not only to not have the parents, but not to have a figure like that in your life to just keep you going.
Sure.
And fortunately, I've had enough of those, and I still do in my life, to just keep me going and support me with whatever.
That's good, man. Yeah, it's true. And I think that's where coaches play a big role for a lot of people. Not everybody has parents or whatever family members who can motivate them or keep them on track. And I know for myself, I just try to be a stable figure in my athletes' lives, just so they know that someone is holding them accountable, someone has expectations for them outside of themselves. So it's good to hear that you've got those people around you. That's why you're so successful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, on top of your extremely impressive work ethic and everything.
Thank you.
Is there one moment or like one specific thing in your football career that stands out as like, this is the one thing I'm going to remember, like up until now? Obviously, hopefully there's more success, but like the most memorable thing for you where it's like your football career can kind of be summed up in this moment. It doesn't even have to be a big win or anything, but just something special for you that sticks out in your mind.
I think it really is a big, the first time we beat Valencia, my sophomore year, I feel like I talk about it a lot because it really it brought me and my team so much closer. And I had personally my best game, especially as being a sophomore.
Yeah.
Best game as a sophomore. And just seeing how a team can really bond together and work with each other for one goal that we all want really bad, and just coming up as the underdogs, really, it stapled into my mind, and I feel like it's a parallel with life too, just being an underdog or being in a situation where it's not comfortable or there's someone better than you, there's something better than you, there's something above you, but working to get to that point I feel like that's where the parallel is in life, with whatever it is, whatever difficulty you may have in life. It's just being able to work through it, the adversity you have to have, and just the things you have to overcome. I feel like that's why it's stapled in my mind so much.
I wanted to ask you about being on, like, a football team is huge. Like, you have a ton of players. Does it take, in your experience, does it take something like that to really get everyone on the same page, or is there something that you have to do or the leaders have to do to really rally the team towards one goal?
Well, I mean, it's a combination of both for sure, because the senior leaders we had during that year, I think it was like Cole Spivey and Chase DePaco and all of them, they wanted it bad. They really wanted to beat Valencia. So being in that leadership position and me being like a young kid on the team, just feeding off of that was really, like, I feel like our spine and our backboard to win that game. Just seeing how bad somebody wants it, and like we were talking about earlier, just having that person on the team that really wants it and being able to feed off of their energy. That's a big thing on the team, having a leader, someone in that leadership position that wants that goal, that wants to guide their team to a goal, that wants everybody to work and hold themselves accountable for the week. It's really important.
Yeah, I think having somebody that holds everybody accountable, but that is the most accountable person themselves. They're never late. They're at everything required of them. They're always the one working hardest. It's a testament to it's what it takes to be a leader. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah.
But you find not everybody is suited for leadership, but the ones who are can really carry a team to do special things. So,
but I feel like at a certain point, sometimes trying to be a leader can only kill it. Like, really, it almost hurts, because you could try so hard to be a leader, like we were talking about earlier, but some kids just don't want it. Some kids just don't want to be led. Some kids just want to go against for no reason, And we've had a couple of those kids, but it's tough too. Just really wanting to be a leader, wanting to guide kids, wanting them to follow after you, it's hard to keep doing that when you know that it's not working.
Yeah. It's difficult. I think that perspective is gained as you get older too.
Right.
I think sometimes when you're a younger player on a team and you look at the captain or the leader is just kind of being an asshole.
Yeah.
You're like, why is this guy always riding me? Like I'm out here, I'm working, but then you get a couple years older and you're like, man, it makes sense to them all of a sudden. It, like they're kind of locked into a different perspective. And I think sometimes that leadership role demands respect, and the respect is earned. But when you are subordinate's the wrong word, but when you're a younger player on a team, or when you have someone who is holding you accountable, who's effectively a peer, they might be only a year or two older, they could be the same age as you, and they're holding you accountable, it's difficult sometimes to allow them to have that kind of assertiveness over you. Yeah, you don't. Sometimes people don't want to be led, like you said, but I think taking a step back and seeing it from their perspective, and especially if you're a younger player, as you get older, all of a sudden you're in that perspective and you're like, oh man, I probably could have been a better teammate or more conducive for the team, and we could have been more effective, but I wanted to rebel a little bit.
Like, that's a big part of it, like you said. I feel like that's also something with like being immature. You have to be able to see where somebody else is coming from. You have to be able to see where that leader is coming from. You have to know that they want what's, I mean, although they could be like an asshole or something, they want what's best for the team and what's best for you.
Right.
They see potential in you. They know that you can do better than what you're doing. So you really have to have an open mind with these things, you know? You really have to understand that they're trying to help you. They're not trying to hold you down.
I tell that to a lot of, I talk to tons of players about issues that they're having with teammates or coaches, and you know, sometimes they're dealing with the difficulties of having people, other people's expectations of you, and feeling like they're, you know, riding them or like focusing on them too much. And I try to remind them, like, if they didn't think you had the potential, if they didn't think you could contribute more, if they weren't concerned about how you were doing, they wouldn't pay attention to it at all. So I think sometimes it's difficult for people to understand, like, this coach or this player is so focused on me all the time, I feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick, or like they're picking on me in a way. But the reality is they're probably doing that because they see potential. They see that you could be better than you are.
That's I mean, you could say I'm a jerk for this, but that's actually what I say to kids. Like, they could just be like, they could be like feeling pressured by me, or just like I'm doing too much. But it's because I see that they can be a great player. They definitely have potential to go somewhere, or just really help with the team.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm on them so much, and that's why I expect so much from them.
Do you find in those moments, like, do you have to, like, obviously on the field it's one thing, there's like a certain level of aggression, you're probably pretty intense in a drill or in a game, and you're in somebody's face and you want them to give you more. Do you find that after the fact you have to go back and kind of explain to them what you were doing?
All the time, because I'll feel that. I'm like, all right, maybe I did a little too much. Maybe I was being too aggressive. But in that moment, I saw what can be. You know, I saw their potential. And of course, I mean, you could probably talk to some of the kids on the team, but I can be a jerk, but I could also be like, cool. I'll explain where I was coming from, you know? I won't just like leave it how it is. I'll explain my thought process through it and how I saw the potential that they hold, you know? And yeah, that's
comes back to helping people see your perspective. Yeah, I really try to stress that to players is, you know, when you're being focused on, it's probably because they believe you can do more.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have that when you were a younger guy on the team?
I did. Especially by some of the other players, the coaches too, but it was mainly the other players that just, they were on me or whatever. But most of the time, for me, I could be that figure to myself, so I don't really need it from anyone else. I'm not saying that I completely don't need it at all, because most of the time it helps. Yeah. But I just, like I was talking about earlier, I put a lot of pressure on myself as it is, and I'm always gonna have that voice in my head. Nobody could tell me. No coach or player could really yell at me or say anything bad that I haven't said to myself. You know, I'm yelling at myself 300 times louder than the coaches, you know. I'm more disappointed than my coaches, whatever it is, because I expect that out of myself. I expect more from myself.
Yeah. Like Dad telling you after the game. You're like, I've been yelling at myself, Dad. I know.
Yeah.
It's good, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your journey with us, the injuries,
Of course.
growing up tough. I'm hopeful that we'll see you at the D1 level pretty soon. I think we'll be there, so we'll be cheering you on.
Thank you.
I like to wrap up every episode by getting a piece of advice from our guests. So if you've got a piece of advice that you'd give somebody who's kind of going through the same thing or may have experienced similar things to you, what would it be?
Well, not only with being in your sport, but also life, you have to have adversity. You have to be able to overcome anything. You have to be able to overcome an injury, a bad game, like a difficult teammate. You have to be able to overcome everything, or else you'll never get anywhere. You have to be able to emphasize those mistakes and get better.
Perseverance. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for today.
It, Craig. Oh,
we'll go handshake too.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, dude.
Thanks.
Big thank you once again to our guest, Vinny Tiscareno, our producer, Malin Blade, and all the big dogs listening. Tune into our next episode for more Athletes Unleashed. Later, homies.